this video I'm going to show you how to work with multi-part designs in Lightburn, like the one you see on the screen here. And this was specifically requested by a subscriber who wanted to know how to cut one or two things at a time from a design like this rather than the whole lot in one go. So this design has a lot of parts to it, and it's obviously not something that is going to cut out all in one go on my laser. Now I could make it smaller by just simply selecting everything and then just dragging from the corner and dragging it down like that. But the problem with doing that is that sometimes resizing can cause issues with a model like this that uses tabs, especially if it was designed for a specific wood thickness in mind. Now bear in mind that Lightburn does have a feature that allows you to resize designs to take into account the material thickness, but that's for another video. For this video we are going by the assumption that you don't want to resize this model and you want to cut it as is. So let's take a look at this. Now the file came in exactly as you see it here, and it created layers, as you can see, for the line, for the cutting line, and a layer for the fill, for the engraving part. So there are a few ways to work with designs like this, and if you have any other suggestions, please don't hesitate to add your comment below. Now, for the first option, you just need to select what you want to cut. So what I'm going to do is just say you wanted to cut just this particular shape here. You can do more than one, it doesn't matter, you could do 5 or 6, but I'm just going to go with one. And what I would normally do with something like this is I would check first to see how these are put together, and you can see they're all in little bits. If I move these around, everything comes apart. So the first thing I would do is just group these, and I'm just clicking and dragging from the side and right click and selecting the group option. So once it's grouped, what I can do is come over here to this option. You can see here, cut selected graphics. If I hold my cursor over it, you can see it says cut only the items you currently have selected. Now this is selected, right? Selecting it is just clicking on it and make sure it's highlighted like that. So that's selected. So what it's going to do, it's just going to, if I select that, it's actually only going to cut what's on the screen here. Now you'll notice if we go up here, we get this option. One or more shapes are crossing the edge of the machine workspace and will not be sent continue. So in other words, you have to move this up, obviously, to get it onto the workspace here. Once it's on the workspace, if we come up here, now you can see we get this message. That's just part of the design. I normally just go continue here and just make sure the image is okay when I see that. But otherwise, there it is there. And you can see whatever's in this preview window is what is going to cut and engrave. So that's all it's going to do. So although you've got the rest of the content sitting here, it's really only going to cut and engrave this piece here. And you can even put this over the top of the other things here. It doesn't matter. You will still get that there, which means that's all it's going to cut and engrave. Now for the second option, it's probably not something I would do myself, this option, but it's an option that if you need it. Okay, again, I would do the same thing. I would always just group whatever I'm wanting to cut. So right click and then group. And then I'll move that away. And then what I'll do is just highlight everything and just delete it. So that's all I've got left on the screen now is that, and that's all that will cut and engrave. Now for the last option, this one's a little bit more cumbersome, there's a lot more to it, but it's probably something I would do if I was going to be cutting this design over and over again. I'd probably do this, and that is I would start grouping things together. So for example, see this bit here, I would probably group that together. So I'm just highlighting everything, right click and group. So that's one, and these here I would group and group. So I'd probably be tidying everything up and grouping it nicely so that everything stays together. Okay, so once I have everything grouped like that, what I would do is just move them into like types of designs, I guess. That's the way to put it. So I'd put all these ones that are going to cut and engrave together. This lot here, and all the ones that are just going to cut I'd combine as well. So now that I've got them all grouped, what I would do is actually group the collections now. So I would highlight that, and what I would do with this, because this has a black line here around everything and these have a black line around everything, so what I need to do is change the colour of this one so it forms its own layer. So I just pick a colour, doesn't matter what it is, and see it's changed the colour. It has changed it to fill, which I don't want, so I'm just going to change that back to line. Alright, so that's all there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this. I'm going to click on output so it doesn't output to the laser. And I'm also going to click on show here, and that'll stop it from showing up on the screen here. It's still there, you can just unclick that and it'll show up again, but I just don't want it to mess up the screen, there's too much going on. And then what I can do now is I can easily just move these onto the screen, and I could potentially cut all these in one go. Since they're all sort of engraving and cutting, it's just nice to have them all together on the one sort of screen there, and you can play around and get them closer and that sort of thing. Again, you can ungroup, so for this one I might ungroup it. And then I can group these individually, just to move them around to get them in better positions. And always I'd want to group them, because you're constantly wanting to move them around. You don't want things to come out of place. So there you go, that's what I would do in that situation. So there's lots of different options there. If you've got any others, please don't hesitate to put them in the comments. And thank you for watching.